Every country has their own version of undead creatures, from zombies to vampires, and from creatures that can shapeshift to one that travels as a ball of fire. On today's top 10 list, I will be covering scary encounters with the undead. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have the Noxzereh. The Noxzereh are the undead that come from German mythology. While any passed away person can become one, it is most commonly those who took their own lives or passed away from accidents. The transformation to the undead only happens after passing, as it is not a contagious thing that is passed between people. These creatures will mainly feed on dead bodies, but sometimes they'll also be found feasting on the living relatives. They can transform into pigs, and this is so that they can be easily disguised before they go to feast on blood. Apparently, if the Noxzereh rings church bells, it will kill everyone who hears it. While they rest, they will lie with their thumb in one hand, and they will always keep their left eye open. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Pontianak. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. The Pontianak comes from Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, and is basically the vampire ghost of a woman who died in childbirth, or it can sometimes be someone who was attacked by one of these creatures previously and has now become one themselves. They find their victims by catching their scent of clothes that have been hung out to dry. After they find their prey, they will tear open their stomachs and eat their insides while drinking their blood. Certainly does not sound like a good time at all, but there is a way to stop them. If you can drive a nail through the back of their neck and keep it there, it will turn them into the person they once were again, but if the nail is removed, the monster returns. It is believed that if you put glass beads in the mouth of a corpse, it will prevent it from screaming, and an egg in its armpit, it will prevent it from flying, and then it won't be able to turn into one of these undead creatures. In our number 8 spot today, we have Reicholicus. Reicholicus come from Greece, and they are thought to be the undead monster of a person who lived an ungodly life. They don't drink blood like vampires, but they will walk among the living. Their job or mission is to spread disease and cause death. They will visit people in their sleep and sit on them while they sleep, which is an unbelievably creepy thought. Apparently, anyone can become one of these creatures, even werewolves. If one knocks on your door and you answer on the first knock, you too will turn into one. So maybe it's better to just always answer the door once a second knock comes around, just in case, because you never know when it's gonna be an undead person. In our number 7 spot today, we have the jiang. The jiang come from China, and the name translates to English as stiff corpse. People turn into the jiang, of course, after they pass away, but it's usually those who had a bad life or those who took their own lives. Like I mentioned before, these are stiff corpses, so they can't walk or run or really move much at all, so they must jump or hop around instead. Their appearance differs depending on how decomposed the corpse was when they rose from the dead, and some even have mold or moss growing on their bodies. These zombie-like creatures are actually blind as well, but this does not stop them from catching their prey. Once they have you, they will attack you and suck the life out of you like a freaking Dementor from Harry Potter. In our number 6 spot today, we have this strigoi mort. Strigoi mort comes from Romania, and they are the undead that have risen from graves and are not to be confused with those of the strigoi vu, who are living vampires or witches. People who pass away before being married or those who had painful lives are in danger of becoming these undead creatures, but also those who passed away and then had their bodies walked on by a cat, which seems very particular. While these creatures can sometimes take on the shape of animals in order to get their prey, when in human undead form, they have red hair, blue eyes, and 2 hearts. This one seems super unfair, but they can also sometimes even turn invisible in order to attack their own relatives. To defeat one of these creatures, it is the classic garlic and stake through the heart trick, and they most definitely do not like the sunlight. If you bury a corpse with a bottle of wine and then come back a few weeks later and dig it up and drink it, you'll be protected from being attacked if that person happens to become undead, and that whole situation kind of sounds like a win-win to me, except for having to drink wine that's been hanging out with a a corpse. In our number 5 spot today, we have the soukuyant. The soukuyant comes to us from Trinidad, the Dominican Republic, and Guadalupe. These creatures are old women during the daytime, but at night, her human form is sloughed off and she will turn into a ball of fire in order to travel. This creature is different from the others on this list because you can become one of these by making a deal with the devil. These creatures will suck the blood of their victims like a vampire, but there is luckily a way to defeat them. If you can find where she left her daytime skin and pour salt into it, that will be enough to end this creature's reign of terror. In an attempt to identify these creatures, sometimes people will leave out spilled rice. This is because if she comes across spilled rice, she has to pick it up grain by grain. This seems like quite an inconvenient oversight by the devil, but that's probably for the best. In our number 4 spot today, we have derekdo. The derekdo is an Irish demon that has quite a dark origin story. These creatures all stem back to a girl who was forced into an arranged marriage, but she was in love with another man. She couldn't stand this life she was being forced to live, so she very sadly took her own life. After being buried, she ended up rising from the dead to kill her father and husband in order to get revenge on them. These creatures are women who will seduce men and then suck their blood and kill them. There is a practice that can be done to stop a corpse from turning into one of these scary creatures, and that is to pile heavy, heavy stones on their grave so as to stop them from rising out. In our number 3 spot today, we have the draugr. Draugrs come to us from Norse mythology, and man, they are scary. These creatures have a ton of powers like superhuman strength, the ability to increase their size, shape-shifting, and seeing the future, just to name a few. While one draugr can cause another to become infected and turn into these creatures, it can also happen naturally after a person who is mean or greedy in life passes away. These creatures exist to scare the living heck out of humans and to protect treasure, and they are very jealous of living humans since they know the life they once had is now over. How they attack humans is pretty next level. They crush them and then eat them and then drink their blood, or they terrorize them so much that they make them take their own lives. Sometimes these creatures even go as far as to bother animals and sometimes even ride livestock. These guys are also very protective over their own graves and will kill any grave robbers that even think about going near it. These guys are not easy to kill though. Either a true hero will have to wrestle it back into its grave, or you will have to injure it with iron and then cut its head off and burn the body and dump the ashes into the sea. Certainly is quite a long process, but I guess it's better to do things right than to take a chance at this thing coming back with a vengeance. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Beast of Bladenboro. The Beast of Bladenboro comes to us from North Carolina. In 1953, in Bladenboro, there were a series of unexplained attacks that were leaving people extremely uneasy. One night, a farmer saw a beast that kind of resembled a cat carrying his dog away, and shortly after this, there were a bunch of dog carcasses that were found that had all been entirely drained of blood, which is just so gruesome, I cannot even imagine. It became huge news, and hunters from all over were trying to catch this vampire beast. Eventually, the town just wanted to return to normalcy, so they decided to shoot and display a bobcat in an attempt to assure everybody that they had found this mysterious beast. Well, I'm not sure about you guys, but I haven't heard a ton about these only blood-drinking bobcats, and of course there are many people who believe that this beast is still somewhere out there. Every year in the town, there's apparently an annual festival that is centered around this crazy story. In our number 1 spot today, we have zombies. How could I do a list about the undead without mentioning the classic zombie, which actually originated from Haiti, and it was believed that they were the corpses that had been made to come back from the dead by a sorcerer. There's actually a famous case that comes to us from 1937. A woman was found in a zombie-like state wandering the streets, and she was thought to be Felicia Felix Mentor, who had passed away in 1907. This sent everyone into a spiral because how could that happen? While the Mentor family took her in for a while, they eventually sent her to the hospital, and it turned out whoever this woman was missing a leg fracture that Felicia had. Another case is about Clairvius Narcisse, and this is truly unbelievable. He turned into a zombie after he was poisoned with tetrodotoxin, which apparently simulates death. He was then buried before being dug up again, and then given a hallucination 18 years while being made to work on a sugar plantation. And the only reason why we know this is because the horrible person who did all of this died, and then he was able to recover from everything he was being given after not being dosed anymore. An absolutely wild story that I cannot believe. glad that terrible man died and that he was able to recover and tell everyone what had happened to him. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have had any experiences with the undead creatures on this list. Do they exist? Are they real? Or is it all just mythology? Let me know. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! There's a lot of words in this that I don't know how to pronounce. Whoever's editing this, first of all, I love you. Second of all, I got the ones that I really am struggling with all ready to go. Pronunciation, so bear with me. And has now become one themselves. I think I just stuttered. And has now become... I definitely stuttered there. What the am I even doing? I just only speak English, and I'm lame, so there's that. Anyway, let's dive in. That's what those things are called, right? Dementors? Dementors? I just added that little bit at the end right now because I was feeling spicy. The construction. Don't they know we're trying to talk about zombies here? Okay. Yeah, but Doug Ford made unessential construction illegal, and suddenly that doesn't affect me at all because they got to put those condos up in Toronto, you guys. What are they going to do if we don't have 4,000 empty condos sitting in downtown? Like, what? How are we supposed to go? Anyways, that was a political chat for no reason in the middle of this video. What are they doing out there? I don't know if you can hear it, so maybe I just sound crazy.